Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to the second session of language acquisition course. In the first session, in the very beginning part of our first session, we didn't come to language acquisition. We came to the discussion of neurology and its relation to linguistics. So we talk about neurolinguistics. We talk about parts of our brain which are related to language production, and language perception and language production. And then, at the final part of our session, we came to the discussion of language acquisition. So we started from talking about the stages of language acquisition happening to children. So there is a prenatal stage and postnatal stage, starting from cooing, babbling, one-word stage, two-word stage, and multi-word stage. And then we also talk about critical period hypothesis. One important notion that we missed last meeting is innateness hypothesis. In that hypothesis brings us to the idea that a baby which is born in a certain place can get the language, can get any languages or any languages given to him or to her. So I think you have ever heard a joke uttered by someone who has just come back from pilgrimage to Mecca. Let me say it in Indonesian language. I mean, someone living in Bogor, and then she is the ustazah in a certain pondok pesantren in Bogor. Okay, and then when people came to her, and then she did a selamatan after coming back from the pilgrimage, and then she invite people, and then she kept she invited people, and she kept telling people like this in Indonesian. Aduh neng, ibu teh waktu di tanah suci itu nengnya baru turun di airport aja udah ngelihat anak-anak sepentil-pentil gini neng di tanah suci, fasih bahasa Arab neng. And then people laugh, atau iya ibu gitu di Arab, sih neng atau ketawa, bener neng, ibu aja yang ngajar bahasa Arab di pesantren ibu, anak-anak nggak ngerti itu bahasa Arab. Itu di Arab sepentil-pentil gini udah fasih bahasa Arab. Okay, now how could we get the phenomenon that sepentil-pentil gini? So I mean the children in Saudi Arabia can speak Arabic very, very fluently. Yeah, just simply because the children starting from the prenatal stage were already given Arabic language input. Okay, so I will also tell you a story. Someone who came from California, the US, and then she got married with Dalang in Malang, and then she had children. Remember the children because the mother is American, the children look like American. But can you imagine that the The bule children spoke in Javanese because they were born in Malang, in Javanese speaking area, the place where the children, the babies, were given Javanese language input. Okay, yeah, so that phenomenon gives us evidence that there is innateness hypothesis, the hypothesis that brings us idea that babies can get the language, any language given to him or to her. Yeah, and then let's talk about an idea of first language. You know Pak Fauzi Shamsuar, right? Talking about Pak Fauzi Shamsuar, what is his ethnicity? Yeah, he claims that he is a Minangkabau, so he is Minang. But when you listen to Pak Fauzi speaking in Indonesian language, I am sure that I am sure that people who overhear Pak Fauzi speaking in Indonesian language for the first time might think that he is a Javanese. Why? Because when Pak Fauzi speaks in Indonesian language, his Indonesian language is influenced by Javanese accent. So there is a question: what is Pak Fauzi's first language? Okay, before we answer, so it is not simple to answer what is the first language of Pak Fauzi. Now I think it's better, we will come to Pak Fauzi later. So we will come to the notion, to the discussions of first language. What is first language, everybody? Yeah, simple. First language is a language, or even some languages. A language. Okay, what is first language? First language is a language or some languages which are given to the baby starting from the prenatal stage up to the stages of the critical period. Okay. So, what is the first language of the children living in Pamijahan? What is the first language of children living in Gunung Picu? Yeah, the first language of those children is Sundanese. That is the reason why the children there, in the place I mentioned, speak Sundanese fluently. Come back to Mecca, to Jeddah, to Medina. What is the first language of the children living in Riyadh, in Mecca, in Medina? Yes, Arabic. Why? Because the language exposed, given to those children is Arabic. Okay? Yeah. So again, what is first language? First language is a language, or can be some languages given to the baby, to the babies, to the children. So that is first language. Before we come to the definitions or the notion of second language, let's come back to Pak Fauzi. So it means that first language is the same as mother tongue. It is a very good question. Mother tongue is a misleading term. Okay, so we don't use mother tongue in language acquisition. Why? Let's come back to Pak Fauzi. Pak Fauzi's mother, Pak Fauzi's parents are from West Sumatra. from Ranah Minang. Pak Syamsuar Sultan Basa and his wife were from West Sumatra, and they moved to Bandar Lampung in 1961. Although they lived in Bandar Lampung, Pak Syamsuar and his wife communicated each other by using Minang language. But there is a question now. What is the language spoken in Bandar Lampung? Yes, Bandar Lampung Malay. So I say it is Bandar Lampung Malay. I don't want to say Indonesian language because Indonesian language is very formal. I would like to say the non-standard Indonesian is spoken in Bandar Lampung area. Okay? And then, what is the first language of Pak Syamsuar Sultan Basa's children? Minangkabau? Yes. So not yes, but yes. Why? The children of Pak Syamsuar Sultan Basa's, Pak Fauzi's father, okay, didn't really speak in Minangkabau language. So me and my brothers and my sisters use Bandar Lampung Indonesian language, Bandar Lampung Malay. Why? Because the dominant language spoken in the area where I grew up was not Minangkabau. So the language spoken there is Bandar Lampung Malay. So what is my first language? What is the first language of Pak Syamsuar's children? Okay. The definition of first language here is not that simple. So when we are talking about first language, we also have to pay attention to the dominant language. What is dominant language, everybody? Dominant language is a language spoken in the society where someone lives. Okay. Let's come back to Pak Fauzi. Pak Fauzi got married with a Japanese woman. So Pak Fauzi has got two children, Rafa and Zahra. What is the mother tongue of Pak Fauzi's wife? Japanese. Okay? The first language of Pak Fauzi's wife, Japanese. She is very Japanese. What is the mother tongue of Rafa and Zahra? Not Japanese. The bahasa ibu of Rafa and Zahra is not Japanese because they live in Cilebut. What is the language spoken? What is the dominant language spoken in Cilebut? Indonesia, non-standard Indonesia. Okay. Even Zahra was complained by her auntie when she came to Klaten. Java asked Rafa and Zahra asked her mother for money. Zahra told, "Bu, minta 2.000." And then her auntie complained, "Rebu, not rebu, Zahra, but ribu." Okay. Why? How could Zahra say 2.000? So what language is it? Batavian Malay. Why? Because in Pak Fauzi's house there is Mak Yong, who is Batavian Malay, Cilebut Batavian Malay, and rebu, 2.000, 1.000, kelenci is a lexical item in that language. Yeah. When we are talking about first language, we also have to pay attention to the concept of dominant language and the dominant language spoken in society, and we also have to pay attention to the concept of the language given by the caregivers. Okay? Caregivers language. Okay, so mother tongue is a misleading word because my mother tongue is not, my mother's language is Minangkabau, but my mother tongue is not Minangkabau. Okay, my mother is, yes, Minangkabau, but my first language is not Minangkabau, Bandar Lampung, Malay. The Madris given by my Madris is language used by the mother of someone. Yes. Or not only but my mother, but also my father. So father is parentis. The parentis that I got from my parentis is language given or used by parents, is parentis. Okay, is Minangkabau, but my first language is not Minangkabau. Let's come back to Pak Fauzi's children. The mother is not Japanese actually, Indonesian language, non-standard Indonesian influenced by Japanese. It is called the Madris. And then besides Madris, the language given by the mother, there is also a caregiver speech, language given by the caregivers, Ma'iyong. I think it's better for us to use caregiver speech when we are dealing with language acquisition. Okay, everybody, now you can get the idea of first language, which definition is not that simple. When we are talking about first language, there is also a concept of dominant language, language which is spoken in the society where someone lives, and mother is a language given by the mother, father is language given by the father. I think it's better for us to use parentis, language or languages given by the parents. Hey, nowadays not only by the parents but also by the nannies. I think it is better for us to use caregiver speech. I think I will give you another example of the importance of caregiver speech here. There was someone, let's say his name is Pak Charles Simanjuntak. You know where he is from. Pak Charles Simanjuntak is from Toba Samosir. And Mbak Kristina Retno Endang Worokasih is from Jogja. Okay? And they live in Jakarta. So the parentis given by Pak Charles Simanjuntak is of Indonesian language influenced by the what you call that Batak language. And then the mother is given, the parentis given by Mbak Endang Worokasih is Indonesian language which is influenced by Japanese. And then it turns out the children of Mas Charles, Bang Charles and Mbak Kristina Retno speak with Tegal accent. Why? Because the nanny is from Slawi, Tegal. Aja kayak gue, something like that. Okay. Okay. First language, dominant language, caregiver speech. Now let's come to the idea of second language. What is second language, everybody? Second language is a language given or exposed to the children when they are already exposed to the first language. Okay, let's come back to Lewiliang. Let's come back to Pamijahan, to Gunung Picung. What is the first language of the children? The first language of the children in Pamijahan is the dominant language, the caregiver speech. And what is the second language of the children in Pamijahan, in Lewiliang? Indonesian language. Okay? They are exposed to Indonesian language from TV, from radio, from internet, from YouTube. Okay? Yeah. So what is the second language? Second language, in simple, I would like to say, language given or exposed to the children when they are already exposed to the first language. Okay. Let's come to Malaysia. What is the first language of Mei Mei? What is the first language of Upin and Ipin? What is the first language of Jarjit? The first language of Upin and Ipin is Malay. What is the first language of Mei Mei? I don't think the first language of Mei Mei is Malay. I am sure that the first language of Mei Mei is Mandarin, because the parents of Mei Mei use Mandarin, and then the society where Mei Mei lives speaks Mandarin. What about Jarjit? I am sure that the first language of Jarjit is Tamil language, Indian language, because the caregiver speaks dominantly. The caregiver speaks dominate the exposure of the language of in Jarjit's life, Jarjit's childhood life. Okay, and then I am sure that Malay is the second language for Jarjit and Mei Mei. And what about English? I am sure that you will find it hard to see a Chinese girl, Chinese child speak in Malay when they meet Malay friend or Indian friend. They tend to use English in Malaysia. Why? Because English is their second language. So, what is second language, everybody? The language given to the children, exposed to the children when they are already exposed to the first language. And the second language is used dominantly in the society, usually in the educational context, in governmental context. What about in Indonesian language? In Indonesia, in the Republic of Indonesia, what is the second language for the children? Indonesian language. Okay, the first language of most of Indonesian children are their local languages, and the second language is Indonesian. What about English in Indonesia? In the Republic of Indonesia, English is only a foreign language in Indonesia, but not in Malaysia. English is second language in Malaysia. French, Spanish is a foreign language in Malaysia and also in Indonesia. Okay, everybody. So today we talk about, we review a bit the materials that we discussed last meeting, and we also talk about the concept of first language, dominant language, caregiver speech, comprises motherese, parentese, second language, and foreign language. Please go over your books. Please get well informed with the concept of those notions that we discussed today. Okay? Thank you very much for paying attention to my explanation. We will continue our discussion on language acquisition next session. The last words from me are Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.